Dance is a powerful medium for storytelling and healing, individually and collectively. Movement allows us to physically transcribe, to embody our thoughts, our emotions, our moments of introspection. It allows us to connect with one another, to empathize on a deeper level as we engage both our bodies and mind. As I pursue my medical career, I think of the ways these aspects of dance can be used to explore unique patient narratives of mental illnesses, to provide healing, and to build empathy for these patients and their mental health journeys. My project is an artistic exploration of these ideas. This is an embodied introspection. My project consists of a score of movement improvisational scripts based off of patient narratives of mental illnesses. The first part of my project examines how dance can be healing. How can embodied introspection of personal experiences of mental illness provide a form of healing? What natural physical patterns do we have in reaction to our experiences? The second part looks at how dance can build empathy. How can engaged viewers reflect upon their own experiences by drawing connections to these scripts through movement? How does that in turn build understanding and compassion for these patient narratives? As a dancer, psychology major, and future medical school student, I've always tried to find space for the intersection between these disciplines. This project was inspired by various avenues of research in psychology. I was first intrigued by the idea of the mind-body connection. Past research has suggested how resilient mindsets can predict better outcomes for cancer patients. Further, stress can lead to gastrointestinal or cardiovascular issues. And the placebo effect, simply thinking that you receive a treatment, has actually been shown to reduce immune reactions or inflammation. Further, I was intrigued by the concept of introspection. Past literature by Penn Baker suggests that writing about emotional experiences shows significant improvements in mental health. This form of introspection allows for a deeper understanding of a person's narrative around negative experiences. And since writing is really beneficial for processing emotional experiences, I thought about how we can add a layer of physical introspection to the healing process. How can our bodies transcribe our thoughts and our emotions? And how this can in turn be healing. Finally, I was inspired by the research behind contemplative practices, various meditation, movement, or other routines that lead to a healthier mind, body, and soul connection. The first step in my project consisted of conducting in-depth interviews with patients who have mental illnesses such as major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. These were deeply personal interviews where I had the privilege of hearing patients share their individual mental health journeys. I chose to interview patients with major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder because these are two of the most commonly diagnosed mental illnesses in the US, and they also have a high comorbidity rate, which means that patients diagnosed with anxiety may likely be diagnosed with depression as well.
I think the way that I often perceive it or like conceptualize it is as if it is a downward spiral. Like I start one place and then it maybe is broader at the top. So it's like less and less effective. And then as you get further and further into the thoughts that are racing in your mind or into the, whatever time it is at night, the later it gets, the more in depth the I guess thing in my brain is like the easier and quicker it is to spiral down to a dark place. I think of a tornado of like starting at this top and funneling down very quickly, exponentially into a place where I have no control over my life, but also over myself.
After conducting and transcribing the interviews, I look into what details of their mental illness experiences to translate into personalized improvisation scripts. For example, the description of a distorted thinking pattern that was just described will draw upon the imagery of spirals. Dance improvisation is movement created and performed spontaneously. I like to think of it as just letting your body move however it wants to. No preparation, training, or experience required. Improvisation is often guided by scripts, which are basically a series of connected prompts to direct improvised movement. They can be written, spoken, image-based, sound-based. I chose to focus on improvisation because a lot of popular dance and movement therapies are based in improvisational techniques. Dance therapies such as the Alexander Technique or the Feldenkrais method have clinical implications in lowering depression and anxiety levels. There's a lot of different techniques such as Gaga, Skinner releasing technique, and authentic movement practice. There are several characteristics from the aforementioned dance therapies that I will implement in the methodology of my improvisational scripts and movement sessions. First, most of my scripts prompt an awareness of our bodies in the physical present moment, and a focus on our senses and use of breath. Further, the ideas of employing imagination are incorporated into the scripts as well. I often use action words such as envision, think, or imagine. Many of the scripts similarly use metaphors and imagery, but they are instead inspired by legitimate personal experiences of mental illness, thus providing a unique narrative and introspective quality to the scripts and movement sessions.
Spiraling around and around and around, with that center grounded. Can you even imagine multiple centers of gravity? Sink into that control you have over these circles. Again and again, turning around itself. Awareness of the curvature in every turn you make, the details of that. And then slowly, the circles become less even. Maybe they're not perfectly symmetrical. Unbalanced, the sides of each spiral stretch and contort. The center becomes upended, and the spirals start turning out of control. Your body is out of control. Moving frantically, flailing in all directions. Move and explore in that chaos. The entropy increasing. Everything is unbalanced, uneven, uncontrollable. Moving in all directions. Sink into the chaos you feel, the instability, out of control. And at the moment you feel the most lost, the most chaos, try to pinpoint that center of gravity again. Try to find where it's at. Pull at the extremities of your body, closer and closer to that center point. And slowly, as you pinpoint that center, just feel your body pull into that control more. The circles in your spirals start to become more concentric, more controlled, overlaid perfectly.
After exploring these scripts, I held individual movement sessions with each participant to explore the scripts I wrote for them, and then conducted feedback interviews.
For both of the sections, I could tell specifically where in the interview like it was coming from. So that was really, I think, powerful to be able to have a movement and then automatically relate it to an experience or a feeling. That was really nice.
I really resonated with the things that you wrote, and I think it's indicative of the fact that it's based well on my story. Like, I'm not sure, I don't know how anyone else would react, and I think that that's like really interesting to think about. So I very much thought it was based on my own narratives. A lot of these feelings are difficult to put into words, and sometimes there just aren't words to describe the way that they are. And so, like, in doing a movement session in this way, and something that focuses on healing or focuses on, you know, bringing your thoughts into the world, that's like, that's not abstract. That's like what I need. That's what, you know, people in my situation need to heal.
Interviewing, creating the scripts, and holding individual movement sessions with my participants consisted of part one of my project, where I looked into how narrative improvisational scripts can provide healing for patients. The second part of this project consisted of a public movement session I held with friends, mentors, and anyone who is interested in exploring patient narratives through movement. I chose a sequence of scripts to explore at this movement session and held a discussion afterwards. This part of the project considered how interactive viewership can help build empathy for patients. I hope that by physically moving through these scripts inspired by real narratives, we can all better understand and connect to patients with mental illnesses. My final project with all the written scripts, full-length movement session audio recordings, and patient interview excerpts and feedback will be presented through a website. Through this project, I explored how first, dance can be healing, and second, how dance can build empathy. I'm excited to continue exploring how dance can inform my medical career, and actually hope to expand this project in medical school. Specifically, I hope to work with more patients on this project and see how I can potentially create a formal methodology for my project's process, and perhaps even investigate the clinical impact of dance as an alternative treatment method. I also hope to see how physicians can build empathy for their patients by exploring narrative scripts through movement sessions.